Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Nuala Black and this is Foxy at 50. Thank you so much for tuning in. And today I want to talk about the very serious subject of depression. Now obviously I'm not a doctor, but I do have a great deal of experience on this subject. And all I want to do is share with you my knowledge, and if it can benefit anyone or get them to seek professional help, then that would be wonderful. When I was growing up and going through this, or when I was a lot younger, I didn't get any help whatsoever, and I think that if there had have been a video around or anybody could have shared with me what I'm going to share with you, that would have really helped me. So again, I must emphasize that the information I'm giving is just based on my knowledge and my experience of depression, and should never be used instead of seeking help from a qualified doctor or therapist. So first of all, I'll just mention some of the very common symptoms. You might suffer from great sadness, despair, lack of motivation. Things that used to interest you just have no point whatsoever. I found that one of the most difficult things to deal with. Everything just seems pointless. You might have irritability, anger, crying all the time and crying for no reason whatsoever. Being extremely sensitive to other people, what other people are saying. You might have a lot of fatigue. You might be sleeping too much, sleeping too little. There could be changes in eating habits. Those are just some of the symptoms. Put very simply, I put depression into three categories. The first category is clinical depression, and that's where there's a chemical imbalance in the brain. It's when the brain is unable to produce serotonin and norepinephrine. Both of these are vital for happiness and well-being. Then the second category is the depression which I call causative, i.e. some trauma has occurred, something that you would be aware of. There was a trigger. So for example, your partner could have left you, you could have lost your job, someone close to you could have died, something awful happens and that brings the depression on. And then the third category is a person's inability to think in a positive way. Their default position is always negative, and this could have been learned from childhood. And now the brain just sees everything and everyone in a very negative way. And a lot of the time the person is totally unaware that they're doing this, or that is their default position in the brain. So they could be causing their own depression without realizing it. And of course it could be a combination of all three. So just to say them again: number one, a chemical imbalance. Number two, something happened to trigger the depression. Number three, stemming maybe from your childhood, something very negative happened or was always happening in the childhood, and now the default position in the brain is always negative. Then there's the severity of the depression. We say we're depressed a lot. We all go around saying it, when in actual fact we're just a bit fed up, we're down in the dumps. But then there is mild to moderate depression, where you're coping with life, but it's starting to impact on your daily activities. Then there's third, moderate to severe, where that is seriously impacting on your daily life. The treatments obviously relate to the severity. However, one very important point to make is that mild to moderate depression, if not treated, can turn into severe, debilitating depression. But mild to moderate depression, if it's caught, can actually be dealt with lifestyle changes a lot of the time. Now, these lifestyle changes can often prevent the depression from ever occurring again, or at least stop it from turning into severe, debilitating depression. So how do we deal with it? Well, recognizing which category you fit into could be a good start, but if you're not sure, then obviously your doctor or therapist can figure that out. So now I'm going to list some of the treatments and preventative measures that you can take to stop depression. So the first one is exercise. I can't stress enough how important exercise is for mental well-being. We so often think of exercise as just for physical health, but the benefits of exercise on mental health are immense. Now, I know it might be the last thing you feel like doing when you're depressed, but if you can just really push yourself to go for that run or do some form of aerobic exercise, it really can make a huge difference. And really, I suppose exercise is more of a preventative measure, because I realise that if you were already in a very deep depression, then asking someone to exercise is like asking them to climb Everest. However, if the symptoms are mild to moderate, then exercise is doable and it will make an enormous difference. Then number 2 is mindfulness and meditation. To put them in a nutshell, these practices help keep the mind in the present moment. When the mind is in the present moment, it can't dwell on destructive, negative thoughts. Again, I can't stress enough how important something like mindfulness, practicing mindfulness in your daily activities can be. Meditation is also proven to be extremely beneficial. So don't underestimate it. It's extremely powerful. And it's actually a lack of mindfulness in our day-to-day living that can bring on depression. Now, if you can get into the habit of practicing mindfulness and meditation while you are well, then you could stop the depression from ever returning again. Your doctor can put you in touch with local groups in your area. Then number 3 are therapists and different types of therapies. Now there are lots and lots of different types of treatments, but I would strongly recommend CBT, that's cognitive behavioural therapy. It has been proven to be extremely effective when it comes to depression. It's a short-term treatment, which is great because it's so effective. It does work in the short term. Personally, and I'm just speaking personally, I would steer clear of any therapist who tells you that it's going to take 6 months for your depression to get better. Now, I am only talking about depression. Obviously, you could be in therapy for other things that do take some time. But as far as depression is concerned, I think short-term treatments are definitely doable, and CBT is one of them. But again, your doctor is the best one to talk to about it, and he or she will certainly put you in touch with a qualified therapist. Then number 4, we've got the antidepressants, of course. Obviously, only your doctor can advise you on antidepressants, and obviously only a doctor can prescribe them. But if your depression has got to the stage where it's seriously impacting on your life and you're not able to do the most simplest of tasks like washing or even leaving your house, then if I said to you, oh, why don't you exercise or practice mindfulness, you're well past that stage. You simply can't even take a shower or comb your hair, so you're not about to go and run any marathons. So in that case, antidepressants can be a lifeline because they can pull you out of that absolute hell that you're in. And once they give you that initial lift, which they can and will, then you can start doing other treatments like practicing mindfulness and exercise and so on. Then number 5 is diet. Now, the food that we put into our bodies is obviously really important. I mean, I say obviously, but a lot of people don't realise at all that the food that we eat can seriously affect the way we think and feel. It plays a very important role with our mental health and should be taken very seriously. People whose diets are really high in processed meats, sweets, chocolates, desserts, fried foods, high fat foods, they are much more likely to suffer from depression, and also people lacking in B vitamins. So just going back again to the categories and the clinical depression that I mentioned, or the chemical imbalance, all of the methods that I've mentioned, all of those treatments will help this type of depression. But this type of depression is probably more likely to be in need of antidepressants because it's a chemical problem, therefore a chemical could well be the best solution. And a chemical imbalance, the depression often comes about for no rhyme or reason, no warning, just suddenly it's there. And so that is often a sign that it is a chemical imbalance. Being very sad because you've lost a loved one, you've lost your job, a relationship breakup, being very sad in those cases are normal. However, if it goes on for too long and isn't treated, then it can turn into full-blown depression. And again, that's where things like looking after yourself, doing exercise, eating properly, practicing mindfulness and meditation, they can all help really well in those circumstances. But if the symptoms aren't getting any better, then don't soldier on. Go to your doctor and get some help before it really turns into full-blown depression. Then number 3 was the compulsive negative thinking. Now this is where CBT or similar therapies work extremely well. Now I know some people can be really put off with therapists, but CBT is not just a question of sitting there and having a chat with a sympathetic counsellor. Therapies like CBT teach us to reframe and reprogram the brain. You're actually doing something to change what's going on with the pathways in the brain. It teaches you to be more productive, more positive, so that the default reaction is not a negative one, but a positive one. Don't think for 1 minute they're about tea and sympathy. They're extremely effective methods that retrain and reprogram the brain, and they work. CBT works incredibly well. You may not realize it, but you could have learned this negative behavior from childhood, and it could be at the very root of your depressive moods. And remember, if your brain has learned this negative behavior, it can unlearn it. And that is where CBT really comes into its own. So as I said at the beginning, see your doctor, don't suffer. There are treatments out there and they do work. Unfortunately, the nature of the beast will tell you that none of these treatments can possibly work for you. That's the depression talking, that's what it does, and you have to try and ignore that. It's not you, it's the depression talking. So start by getting yourself to a doctor, or go straight to a CBT therapist. But your doctor can definitely put you in touch with a CBT therapist. And if you are well or you have mild depression, then incorporate the exercise and the good diet, the mindfulness into your daily life so you can stop that depression from ever coming back again. Personally, I think everybody should go and have some CBT because we all suffer from negative thinking one way or the other. They're just different extremes. And just remember that prevention is always better than cure. So incorporating these lifestyle changes will go a long way to helping with negative thinking. So that's about it for today. I hope that has helped a little bit. Do remember, if you're going through this, that you are not alone. There is help, and it's a temporary thing. No matter how bad it is or how long it has been going on for, it is temporary and you can get your life back. If you have any questions or comments, do put them in the comments box and I will definitely get back to you. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe, follow, like, and until the next time, I'm Nuala Black. This is Foxy at 50. Stay safe, happy, healthy and well. Bye bye.